Welcome back to another episode of TC with Lily. As you see, I'm more in a Zoom setting today because I want to give you guys a breakdown on how much it actually costs to start a real estate transaction coordinator business in 2023. Now, these are rough estimates. I encourage you to do your own research and your own due diligence and finding out how much these things actually cost, because prices vary from city to city, state to state, country to country. And I want to make sure that you are getting the most accurate numbers based on your own research. But this is just to get you started, to give you a full comprehensive understanding of what you need to be working with, saving for, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So what I'm going to do is share my screen in just a moment. It's just a Google Doc. It's nothing serious. I'm going to be adding to it as we're talking, but I just wanted to give you a general basic understanding of things you'll need to start a transaction coordinator business. Some things may get left off, so just hit the subscribe button. This is going to be an ongoing topic. And if you join my TC community, go to mytccommunity.com, submit your name, email, more information will be headed your way. I'm starting a monthly membership community, which is my TC community. And we will go into topics like this more in depth there. That way, we could share tips. I can tell you guys how I did everything from A to Z and everything in between. And this is basically just one of those examples of what I did when I first was starting my business and all of the things that I've learned in my 5+ years, half a decade, right, of experience that I've learned of things I need, don't need, want, etc. So what I'm going to do is share my screen. But before we do that, my name is Lillian Hernandez, aka Lily, like the flower, because we are learning and growing together. I am your resident care coordinator, and this is TC with Lily. My goal with each episode here, I have a podcast as well, also called Transaction Care. My overall goal is just to demystify the business of real estate and empower you along your journey to either get started or to push forward towards any roadblocks that you may be experiencing. I also offer coaching. And as I mentioned earlier, my TC community membership program will be launching soon, or by the time you watch this, it's already launched. So you definitely want to stay afloat, hit the subscribe button. I'm always welcoming new community members. I love and appreciate all of you. I'm so grateful to continuously be building and talking to you guys and just learning about your journeys and whatnot. So with that said, if you're new to this channel, we're just going to get started. I'm going to jump into it. I don't want to waste any more time. So let's go. Let's go. Let's go. Share. Got it. Boom. There we go. There we go. All right. So as you see here, you can even see I was Googling how much is the cheapest laptop. But basically, let me make this a little bigger because I know it can be hard to see the smaller font. But basically, this is somewhat of a starting list of things you should consider when launching a transaction coordinator business in 2023. And if you may be wondering, can you start a business with $0 or 1,000? What is it? And as I mentioned before, always do your own due diligence and your own research. These are just rough estimates right here, rough estimates. But overall, you definitely want to have a laptop. There's no way you can run a transaction coordinator business just on your phone. I've tried it. I've wanted to just run my business on an iPad as well. It just isn't possible. You can do some things on the phone, of course, like replying to emails, sending attachments, but when you're working with a high volume, even a small volume of transactions, it can get disorganized, and I find it best to have a laptop. And when I first started off, I started with a PC. I got it out the box, meaning that someone bought it and returned it within that same week. So it had very minimal use and damage. It had no damage at all. So I was able to get it at a discounted rate. It's much like buying a certified used car, which is basically what I did with my laptop. And that was probably the best decision I could have made because I was starting things off on a budget. And I was very much just afraid to take the leap, but I knew I had to have a laptop. I knew I needed to have Wi-Fi and the internet. And if that's something that is not within your budget, you know, contact your local library, see if you could rent out a room. Those are generally free. Um, Coffee shops, but just be wary of like the safety of those Wi-Fi connections. You know, you might want to, this is further down from the starter pack, but considering things like a VPN, virtual private network. But right off the bat, basic necessities: a laptop, internet, Wi-Fi, a phone. You just need a phone to be able to contact and call or be called between your clients and your customers. E&O insurance, errors and emissions insurance. I didn't mention health insurance in this because, again, I would hope everyone has access to this, but I don't want to assume or make it seem like this is a requirement, because everybody's choices and lifestyles are different. But that is something you can factor into this as well. But just speaking from a general independent contractors point of view, when I first got started, these are the things I had up front, no questions asked. A cloud system. So I use OneDrive. I'll put a link to the OneDrive system that I use, but it's through Microsoft. And at the time, my laptop was a PC. So it just went along with the packages that I purchased up front, which you don't need to get, but it does help. And a desk. You definitely want to have a desk. You could start off just at your kitchen, or a little, lamp table, corner table, whatever is comfortable for you, or, something like for the couch that you could place, a pillow to put your laptop on, but you are going to be doing a lot of maneuvering. So you want to be as comfortable as possible when you're working. And one of my very first tables, my mom found at Goodwill, and it was really a really nice, like vintage desk that she got for, I think, like $10 or something. And I was using that for a long time. Amazon has a lot of great deals with like rolling tables. And I used to have this really small one that had like a keyboard desk that rolled out. So there's a lot of options out there. So a desk can run you anywhere from free, if you look on like Facebook Marketplace, all the way up to like $1,000, hundreds of dollars, depending on what your style is and what your flavor is and the type of working space you want to have and the aesthetics you want to have within your home. And of course, whatever your budget is. But if you add all of these items up, so between a laptop and a desk and everything in between, you're looking at roughly your startup cost being around $1,000. And keep in mind, some of these could be on the lower end that I'm estimating, and some could be on the higher end. And, Wi-Fi in your phone is something typically already included in your budget. So you may already be paying that. I just wanted to mention it because it is something that you will need to run a successful transaction coordinator business, or any business, to be honest. And that's just what I call a starter pack. So you're looking at roughly out the gate $1,000, just because the laptop can run you a little bit more than $700. And like I said, these are rough estimates, and this is just kind of on the low end. But consider also insurance for the laptop. There are a lot of phantom costs that people aren't aware of. So when you buy a laptop, do you want to buy, like Best Buy has the Geek Squad, there's the antivirus systems, stuff like that. Those are phantom costs. It's like when you go buy a car, you may be quoted $30,000, and you may have only budgeted for a $30,000 car, but when you get to the dealership, you didn't factor in taxes, you didn't factor in license, registration, insurance, all of that. Maybe you want to get a sunroof, high-end sound system. Same thing goes with the laptop. Do you want to get extra space? Do you want to get a MacBook versus a PC? It varies. And then on the low end, Macs you can get for under around $1,200 at the very low end. typically, especially if you go shop somewhere like Costco, which is where I got I eventually switched to a Mac I think 2 years ago or a year and a half ago, and it was the best decision of my life. If you have any questions about Mac versus PC, drop them in the comments. I can absolutely do a video on that as well. But also just join my TC community. I talk about all this stuff within my newsletter, and I will be talking about it more in depth within my paid membership platform. So stay tuned for that. E&O insurance, if you are running a business of any kind, it doesn't matter if it's real estate related, cooking related, sports related, clothing related, whatever the case, right? Apparel related, you want to have some sort of protection on your side. Again, the car analogy, when you buy a car, is it required by law for you to have car insurance? Some people would say yes, some people would say no. But what I'm getting at is, like, in the event, God forbid, anything were to happen to you as a TC, where it has to go to litigation and attorneys get involved, or you are being asked or summoned or to appear in court, or for whatever reason you're being blamed for something happening within the transaction, a few ways to avoid really taking the brunt of all of that and having to pay big sums of money, aside from, more phantom costs like an attorney's fee, is to have E&O insurance, errors and omissions. So that runs roughly between 600 to 1,000-ish. It just depends on the platform you use. When I first started out 5 years ago, I think I was paying around 600. I think now in 2023, it's going to cost me about, let me double check. I can get that fee for you right now. It's going to cost me this year $694. And I pay that once a year. So if you want to allocate that throughout the whole year, you can divide it by 12, and just add it to your savings or your budget. So if I'm paying $698 and I want to budget for that every month, so I can guarantee I have it in the account, if I'm unable to save the lump sum, you would want to be adding $58.17 to your budget. So roughly $60, let's just say, to your monthly budget, so you can allocate for that's almost $700 fee for errors and omissions. But that $700, that $600 you're paying is a lot of peace of mind and relief, and you're not just hitting all these files raw, basically. Do you need a cloud system? In my opinion, yes, you want to have storage to keep your files safe. In the event Gmail decides to delete everything, you have it backed up. You can also use an external drive, but I personally prefer cloud systems like a OneDrive, or there's also Dropbox, Google Drive, something of that effect. But they roughly go for, depending on how much space you want, I think on the low end, maybe $5 to $10, 15, et cetera, et cetera. But, choose what works for you. I chose what works best for me. I tried all of them. I did not like Dropbox. I did not like Google Drive. OneDrive has worked the best for me in this half decade of doing this work. And again, you need a desk. Right now, I'm working with one of the standing desks from Costco. I can sit, I can stand, I can move it. I could charge my phone on it. It has a lot of space for extra monitors, which I'll get into in the next part of this video. But I have my phone, I have notebooks, I have my snackies, my waters, and a candle for, ambiance and freshness. So I have enough space to, operate and work and function and, see different things. And I have the choice to stand up or sit down when I'm working, which I love. And those types of desks tend to run on the higher end in terms of cost. So you don't have to start with the fancy stuff right away. In my first year, I just had these basics, the very basics. And like I mentioned, my desk was from Goodwill starting out. But moving on to just a few other things that you want to consider. I'm not going to go into too much detail because this is an ongoing list, right? And as you see from me scrolling, if you have the starter pack, which I've mentioned, that's what I'm calling it. It's not officially called a starter pack. It's just seemed cool to call it that. But as you start to develop your business and grow financially, and your budget starts to increase and your savings and whatnot, your income, revenue and such, you want to start considering adding to your business. You definitely want to get a good accountant on your team. My first year, I tried to do my taxes myself, like on H&R Block, and it just didn't work out. So I went shopping around for an accountant. Tried to go private, too expensive, or everyone was booked at the last minute. So I ended up going through like H&R Block, and they were great. But once the pandemic hit, everything changed, and I was like, what, I want to refresh my business, so let me go through a different route. And I did. I didn't like them. This is the first year I found someone that I think I finally found a home with someone. So I went through a few accountants before I landed on one, but you definitely want to budget for that. And it could range anywhere from, maybe on the very low end, please don't quote me, call them directly, to 700 plus, for them to do your taxes. And this is annually. You as an independent contractor, as a business owner, you are expected to pay quarterly taxes. And the consequence of that is paying an additional fee in April or October, depending on when your taxes are due. If there's, sometimes the government will give us extensions and whatnot. But just know that there are additional fees tacked on to getting your taxes done. So keep in mind that you do want to have, of anyone you hire, before you even hire an assistant, I would get a good accountant on my side that you can call and say, hey, I'm considering hiring someone right now. Can I afford it? What do you think? How much more do I need to make before we can get there? And a great accountant that you trust, especially when dealing with your money, is invaluable, truly, honestly. And the $700 fee you pay them once a year to try to get you the best credits and fees and refunds is worth it, in my opinion. So next up is an external monitor. If you want to get a good one, they can be up to $400. It just depends on the quality you want. I think I have a gaming one with Asus is the brand I have. I've had it for about 3 or 4 years now. Worth it. I only have one. Some TCs use multiple. I just haven't. I could definitely see the benefits of that. I just haven't gone to the store or ordered one online, and it just wasn't in the budget. It hasn't been in the budget, and I've been able to function with just my laptop and my one external monitor. Pro tip, if you do have an iPhone, an Apple Mac, laptop or computer, or an iPad, you can use your iPad as an external monitor as well, which I just learned in the last year. Really cool. So if you happen to already have one, you save on an external monitor. Of course, the size helps. But if you're just starting out and you're still on, somewhat of a budget, use what you have. I will always emphasize that. Use what you already have until you can work your way up to getting these things. You don't have to get everything at once. Unless you can afford it, then go for it. But if you can't, or you're still unsure about really committing to this as a career, just start with the starter pack, right? And all of these other things you can add as your business continues to grow, which is exactly what I did. A TC management platform. I mean, technically this should be in the starter pack, but not every TC operates the same way, and it does take time to develop those platforms and build them out yourself. So those can vary from like $50 a month to $150 a month. It just depends on who you want to use and who you're comfortable using. But overall, 150 to like 500 a month, roughly. Custom email, like Gmail's, I forget what it's called, like Workplace or something like that. I could be getting that wrong, but just like so you can have the at and then your business. So like I have at Transaction Care. Again, I use Microsoft for that. And then I just link it to my Gmail, and I love using Gmail. But if you can't afford that in the beginning, I would just make sure you separate your business and personal emails. Create a whole new account, free account, and then work your way up to customization. Work your way up to customization. And then eventually you may want to, create a website for your business, a website host. You may want to get 2 phones, and all of that does vary. A domain can cost for the first 2 years, like $12 on GoDaddy. Namecheap is another website you can use. So you're paying anywhere from like $8 to $12 to $20, as long as the domain is available. Now, if I wanted to go buy something like Instagram.com, let's just pretend, hypothetically speaking, that Mark Zuckerberg doesn't own that name, but it's something that, you wanted to call your business. A lot of people sell domains as a business. So they'll buy a bunch of domains and then they'll sell them, much like they do homes, right? And they're just flipping URLs. So if I wanted to buy Instagram.com and I go searching for it on GoDaddy and I see it's for sale, some of those sales can run you like thousands and thousands of dollars, especially like celebrities. Imagine you're a brand new singer, rapper, whatever, and you never bought your domain. And then, someone tech savvy thought about buying it. Like, let's just say Beyonce is like unknown. But there's like this underground scene where people know her, and she didn't think to buy her domain or even her trademark. It gets kind of scary, the dark web. But basically, as she's beginning to pop off and bubble and build her name, she wants to, create a website now. But then she goes to search Beyonce.com and it's taken. She has the option to either buy her name back, which would probably be at a pricey, high price point, or she can do like Beyonce music.com or Beyonce music.com, and then just let Beyonce.com, just let it go. So if you're interested in starting a transaction coordination business, one, make sure that your email and your domain are the same. You don't want it to be like, 123 Joe transactions, and then your domain is like ABCD, ABCD TED transactions.com. You want it all to be 123 Joe transactions, at gmail.com, 123joe.com, transactions.com. You don't want it to be completely different to where you're like, wait, is this the same person? You don't want to cause confusion to your clients and your customers. You want to be as seamless as possible. So once you get into the more technical stuff, you may want to buy a host, and that varies as well. It could be like $100 a year and whatnot. Then you can eventually start thinking about getting a separate phone line. There you can get a Google number; those are free, and then it just routes to your actual cell phone number. So that's a start, and it's free. I've noticed that you do get a lot of spam, especially if someone else has already had that number. Like right now, I'm getting a lot of messages for David, who apparently worked in fitness prior. So you do have to work, manage that, and it is handled like a droid, so you have to deal with like the green bubbles. But other than that, if you're on a budget, you can just get a free phone number and reroute it that way. But if you do want to separate your personal from your business, you're going to have to factor in this again, getting another phone, which we all know phones nowadays are a lot of money. You're almost looking at a, $500 phone on the low end, if you want to get the bells and whistles, and up to $1,000, $1,500 for the big maximum phones. But it just varies. It depends on what your strategy is or how you want to run your business. And then, the last few things that you want to kind of consider that I'll end it with is your team. Who do you want to be working with at this point in the game? And you have your accountant in order, and things are actually doing well with your business, and you want to start to expand and grow. One thing I've learned is that you can't do any of this alone. You cannot. Um, I should also add, like a coach, therapy, masterminds, events, conferences. As you're building and growing, you want to continue to expand your education and your knowledge of the topic that you're doing. And, you may want to start venturing into other aspects of real estate. Maybe you want to become a realtor, your license. Let's talk about that. Your license can run you a couple of $1,000s, with licensing fees, testing, driving, study materials, going to classes, whatever your choice is. And that could be an additional couple $1,000s. But as you're doing all this, keep in mind, these are tax write-offs. I didn't mention that earlier because I wanted you to get a firm grip on, like, you will have to spend money. You can't escape it. You have to spend money to make money. It's a law. It's a law of the land. But it does come back as long as you're putting in the work to continuously generate and sustain yourself as a business owner. So, licensing, to start a transaction coordinator business, that's not required by most. There's a select few of brokerages that do require you to be a licensed realtor or to be certified. I know California has a certification program, not required, highly suggested. And those also can run you a couple thousand, $1,000 right off the bat. But again, I said tax write-offs, and talk to your accountant about doing all of this. But if you're ready, just go for it, and then bring it up to your accountant afterwards, and just save your receipts in your cloud system so you don't lose any of it, and save your emails, bookmark your, organize your emails. Email organization, inbox organization is a key as well, but I'm not going to get into that in this video. And building your team, who is your money team? That's what Floyd Mayweather calls his boxing team, his money team, and you want to look into things like a marketing team, social media team, what kind of entity do you want to call, your business? You want to, start an LLC, which kind of goes under here. And that, you can definitely do on your own, but you may want to consult with an attorney. And, attorneys have, you can put them on retainer. You can just pay their one-time fee, and those can range as well, anywhere from maybe free if you know somebody, maybe $50 an hour to $600 a sit down, an hour, $300. So it just varies. You have to do your own research and due diligence and ask anyone within your network, do you know a good attorney, a good business attorney? And you got to get specific, because you don't want like an attorney that represents murderers doing your business affairs, right? Unless they specialize in both. But in actuality and in reality, it's kind of difficult to do both, I imagine. So you want to, when doing research on it, the type of attorney you want to look like, okay, what do I need? So if I need help with my business, let me search local business attorneys and, real estate attorneys. Real estate attorneys are different from business attorneys, because business is so broad and general. Are we dealing with HR issues, payment issues, tax issues? There's so many niches within the scope of being a business and a business entity, a business attorney. So you just want to get specific. So these are just things to consider that, in the long run, you would want to pay for. A bookkeeper is different from an accountant. Again, do your own due diligence, but basically they are the ones that help you with your, your profit and loss statements and just all of your expenses, that, money in, money out, all of that stuff, and managing that with you. Always have a hand in your business. Don't just assume because you're paying someone to do it that they should be in charge of everything. Know the bare minimum of these different type of jobs so you can have a little bit of language. I'm not fluent in Spanish, but I can get by, because I don't want to be so lost that I can't even distinguish how to say left and right if I'm in a town by myself, or I'm in a city or a country where it's required. If I was to go to, say, France today for the first time ever, I would take some time to learn just the basics, left, right, thank you, hello, you know, thank you, please, all of you're welcome, stuff like that. And I'm not saying you have to be an attorney, you don't have to be a bookkeeper, you don't have to be an accountant, you don't have to know marketing inside and out or social media. I just implore you to know the basics, marketing basics, and then build your questions off of that, bookkeeping basics, and schedule, weekly, monthly, quarterly meetings with these people. So you know exactly what's going on within your business. Because stuff can go left real quick, and I've heard and seen some shady stuff happen, and it's just not fun. You also may want to look into trademarking. Pro tip, which I will get into in a separate video all about trademarking, because I've trademarked my business, is there is a difference between a state trademark and a federal trademark. I'm still kind of, the details are fuzzy for me, but I know the basics. I know that there are two and they both cost a lot of money. So if you're doing business within just your state, that would probably be the best option. Again, I'm not an attorney, consultant attorney on this. But if you're doing, business throughout all of, the country that you're working on, you may want to look into getting a trademark, to cover yourself throughout that whole nation or continent. Even looking at international trademarking and laws and such. It goes deep. It goes really deep. But this is stuff that, you don't have to worry about right off the bat. These are things you can add on as like milestones for you as you grow your business. And then others, mental health is important as well, and education. I've hired my coach, and full transparency, it's about $1,000 a month. And I always find a way to make sure that I pay for it. There's only been 1 month where I had to pause it. It was like around the holidays. And in that month, I just felt so lost and incomplete. And I didn't have the right mindset, and things kind of fell apart. And it's not because my coach was holding it together. It was just more so I kind of let go of some of that responsibility, because I felt like that authority figure was kind of missing. And I realized after having taken that break that, yeah, this is something I value and is important to me. And of course, if I'm in a bad financial situation or I just need to like reassess some things, I'm going to have to make that sacrifice. But overall, I prioritize coaching, and it's something that, as long as that gets paid, I'm okay. And then therapy is something new as well that I've incorporated into my finances and in my business for myself. I went through insurance, and you just have to start with like what is available to you for free. What is your insurance cover? I know I mentioned earlier in the beginning of this video, as I'm wrapping up this one, that medical insurance, health insurance we all need it. We should have it. And some of the benefits of having such coverage is it does come with, programs like, I am doing like an 8-week therapy program right now, and it's my first time ever doing therapy. And it's covered under my insurance. And when I went private, when I was doing research on private therapists, in-house therapists, I forget the actual term for it, but they were charging like $250 an hour, which roughly adds up to about $1,000 a month, for a weekly session, about 40 minutes, 45 minutes, $1,000 a month. And at the moment I was just like, it's just not in the budget. Let me see what my insurance has to offer. And my only hesitation is because people were telling me like, oh, don't go through your insurance. It's bad. It's bad. It's bad. But I think that's like, it's subjective. You have to determine what your needs are. And if it does take you having to interview several and advocate for yourself, and interview several different therapists to get there, and doing assessments and whatnot, that's what it's going to take if that's all you can afford at the moment. But therapy, coaching, some sort of just additional accountability, and help you to build your toolbox of resources when you do have roadblocks, or you are having money issues or scarcity mentality, imposter syndrome, your self-sabotage, all of those things. Coaching and therapy, I just will always promote. And everyone's journey is different. I'm also going to do, talk about this in my TC community as well and go really in depth. And I'm also embarking currently in my own coaching journey to become a coach. The work I've done with my coach has been so inspiring that I'm like, this is what I want to do next. This is what I need to do. I feel like this is like my purpose. And, through that, you start to build your communities. And there's so many other things that I didn't list on here. But overall, then you want to start considering attending events, masterminds, conferences, workshops, joining communities and platforms of like-minded people, networking communities as well. So there's so many things to factor in when you're starting a transaction coordinator business, but you can do all of this up front, or you can just start with the basics. And if there's any TCs out there that notice I may have missed something or they want to add to this list, go ahead, feel free. I know this is an informal sheet of paper, Google Doc. But if you want a copy of it, let me know. I don't mind sharing it at all. It's ongoing. It's a list that is forever growing. And let me stop sharing so I can close this out. But basically, running a transaction coordinator business is possible, but it will take some money up front. And if anyone tells you otherwise, send them my way so I can learn what they did to start their TC business with $0. I don't think it's possible, but eventually you will be having to spend money, point blank, period. So if you do have any questions about that, let me know. Drop them in the comments, hit that subscribe button, like this video, share it with a friend that may need it, repost it, share it. All of that makes a difference. I truly appreciate all of the support I've received so far. And if you want to join my TC community and receive more information as to what the program and the site will entail, go to mytccommunity.com. Link will be below as well. And just right now, it's just submitting your name and email. The website hasn't launched quite yet. Unless you're watching this in the future, it's probably launched already. But it will be a paid monthly subscription platform community for all of us to just congregate and get in line and just talk and have fun. And it's going to be a safe space for all of us to also just gather and share our thoughts and feelings about how our journeys are going, and just take it from there. A couple other things. I'm still doing TC work, transactioncare.com. Go to, if you want to hire me as a TC or just need some consultations or whatnot. Also, I have a podcast, Transaction Care. I'm not straying too far from the name, as you can see. But the Transaction Care podcast, that's my baby. I love doing the podcast. I do interviews and I talk about some of these topics that I'm talking about here on YouTube, but more in depth with my guests and those that I've interviewed, which are other TCs, realtors, and in between. Stay tuned. More guests, more interviews to come. And new episodes drop every Monday. I haven't missed a Monday yet. I'm on episode 27, almost at 30. Look at us. Learning and growing together, right? But until then, let me see. I think that's it. But definitely just go to transactioncarepodcast.com to hear the podcast. And if you want to learn more about my TC community, just go to mytccommunity.com. And that's all I have for today. I hope this video and this episode resonated with you and is helping you in your journey. If you have topics you want me to discuss or go into detail, let me know. Leave a comment below. I read everything. You can also DM me on social media at Transaction Care. Made it very easy. And that's all I have for today. So thank you again for watching and bearing with me through my very first Zoom presentation. More to come, more live streams, Q&As, all that good stuff. But this has been another episode of TC with Lily. I am Lily, and we are demystifying the business of real estate one day at a time. And I hope I've inspired or empowered you throughout your journey. And remember, care for yourself, care for your wealth, Oh, merch available too. tccarepackage.com if you want to buy a Care for Yourself, Care for Your Worth t-shirt. Yeah, go get you one. But care for yourself, care for your wealth. Your time is worth it. Let's coordinate. Until the next one, I'm out.